Hey, what's up guys, it's Jay here, and today we're going to be talking about the 11 Pro Max. This is my review of it after 30 days. Alright, so I'm not going to do like the whole shebang, if you will, of all the different things you could talk about for the iPhone. I just wanted to talk about a few things, so battery, the cameras, and a little bit about the design, but mostly about the software. So let's do the battery first. Battery is amazing on the 11 Pro Max, 3900 milliamps, basically 4000, it's like 3969 rated. Each iPhone is probably a little bit different. I'm not sure if they calibrated to that exact number. However, it's probably rated a little bit more, just to, a little bit less, so that they can, they have a little flexibility to bump it higher if they need to. So the iPhone's battery is quite amazing. I'm able to get through a whole day, about 12 hours, with it with 50% left. 50%. That is unbelievable, especially coming from an Android phone, and I've used all sorts of Android phones for the last 4 years, so it's pretty crazy, to say the least. Now, of course, there is a downside with having a huge battery. The phone is heavier, of course, and not to mention, it's stainless steel and all that stuff, but battery's bigger, so it's gonna weigh more. That's just how it is. But I'll take the weight if I get better battery life. So they did remove 3D touch in order to achieve this also. One of the design changes that they did so that they could fit more stuff. I don't mind. Again, I haven't used an iPhone for 4 or 5 years, so it doesn't really affect me. It's as if I never, noticed it. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the cameras. The cameras are 3 array camera. You have a wide angle, ultra wide angle, and then telephoto. And frankly, I didn't really use the ultra wide as much as I thought I would. Mainly, I only use it for if I'm indoors or outdoors, if I want to capture, really wide landscape. But, I guess of the 2 extra lenses, I probably use the wide angle a lot more than the telephoto. So if you're watching this and you don't have the money, you don't want to spend it to get the triple cameras, you can get the 11. But just know that, the battery may not be as good as the Pro. Now, the camera on here is quite amazing. I think it's the best camera this year by far. Doesn't compare to any other camera. The color profiling, calibration is amazing. You get consistent camera quality between the 3, which is probably the first smartphone to ever do that. Samsung's Note, the OnePlus 7, Huawei, none of those camera arrays have the consistency that's calibrated like Apple's. It's just crazy there. Also, the video on the iPhone 11 and the 11 Pro, mostly the Pro because that's the one I'm using. The video is crazy good on here. It basically blows every other phone out of the water. I think the closest one that could probably compete is Samsung's Note and S10 line. But again, it's wow, it's crazy. Especially coming from Pixel 3 XL, which I've been using, and the video on that thing is not good. And I actually, for example, I use this phone to actually film some B-roll for some other projects that I was doing. So that's crazy that the fact that you can record in 4K. If you're shooting in good lighting, you can probably get away with just using this for B-roll, and you can hand this off to your assistant or someone to say, hey, film this for me, and then I'm using the main camera, the DSLR, to film the main shot or whatever. So you can also do that and get multiple angles and just use it as needed for B-roll later on in post. So the last part I wanted to talk about was the software. And the software is, I'm sure if you're watching this and you're used an iPhone before and you're thinking about upgrading, it's probably not that different for you. But for me, switching from Android, it's been pretty different after several years of not using it. And everything just works. Like, there's not a whole lot you can do to customize the phone, of course, and I do remember that. But the fact that everything works smoothly and seamlessly together, that's amazing, right? So if you're using their own ecosystem, it's going to work great. But if you're using like Google Maps or things of that nature, it doesn't work as well, just because it's not tied down into the system level as well. Or it seems like Apple's own applications, they know the system in and out, so they're able to optimize it very well. So there's that aspect to it to consider for myself. And so initially, I did want to say that the software, when it first came out, it wasn't as polished as I thought it would be. It seems like Google and Apple, they both sort of do this thing where when they release a version Android or version of their new OS, it seems a little bit buggy. And so that's a bummer that both companies are doing that. But it is what it is. So I'm not, I can't complain necessarily, but I can say, that's just unfortunate that basically both companies are putting out sort of beta products, if you will. So yeah, the software is, all in all, I'd say it's a lot better. I did upgrade to, I think, was it iOS 13.1.2. Now there is a 13.1.3 available, and I'll update that shortly. But as of now, I've used 13.1, 13.2 for the longest time. And after this first update, I believe most of the bugs have gone away. But after the 0.2 update, pretty much all of them are gone. I don't have any weird application problems. Dark mode is amazing. I'd say it's more complete than Google's own version, which is a mess, and frankly speaking, and the way that they implemented the swipe navigation is it's also a mess, and I can go in another video for that, but that's for another time. The main thing for this phone is the swipe gestures implemented well. The dark mode is implemented well for the most part. There is a need for Apple to push this API basically to the developers to make the change, and it seems like Apple's done a better job at it than Google so far. With Google, they do have system-wide dark mode and at their own first-party applications, but then at the third-party level, a lot of developers are still using the hamburger menu, for example. So that's going to interfere with swipe gestures. And then their dark mode, for example, like some applications like Reddit or Sync Pro for Reddit, they have their own dark mode within the application. So that means that the developer has to go and re-implement some of their code base to interface with Google's API, for example, in order to implement it correctly, so that when you do switch from light to dark, it switches at the system level, and then therefore it pushes out to and propagates to the other applications. So Google has that for their first-party apps, but third-party apps, it's going to take a while for Google. Now for Apple, it's going to be the same deal, but not as bad, because it seems that Apple's documentation, or the way that they've implemented it, makes it easier for folks to do the upgrade, and also because the ecosystem for iOS is richer in that sense. So that's it for my review. You guys can go check out other videos for design and all that stuff. I didn't really want to talk about that, but I'll link some sample photos I've took down below in the description. But if you like this video, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time.